'Cause you're everywhere to me.
Go
When
wicked.
I close my eyes, it's you I see.
I see you
I don't think
every
I know the
day.
words after that.
Makes me believe when
I'm
I
not
love.
alone.
Oh
Shout out my
man,
girl Michelle Branch. Man, it's been a minute.
bro, that was the vibes back in third grade. Just like all in my feels. But hey, welcome back from Guatemala.
Good to be
How you?
back, man.
How's the coffee out there? Coffee
Dude,
fire?
fire. Coffee was so good. Yeah, I feel like there's so many different ways that they are able to kind of like batch all the different coffees that I didn't even know of over here. But even just like the very simple ones, where it's just a simple pour over, so good, man. Like, you know how people can talk about, oh, can you taste the different tones of like the chocolates and different tones of cherry? I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, man, but I feel like I was able to actually get into my coffee zone and actually be able to bring out my true coffee palette while I was over there.
Dude, man, it's like it's. I think it's all about the environment you create. Because something about when I bite into a croissant in Paris, I'm like I could taste the layers of the butter.
The
These different
flakiness.
nuances. There's only one coffee shop in New York City. When you come and visit with your girl, I'll take you because it is like I told Christy, I was like, yo, I can legitimately taste the cherry. Like that shit is so crazy. But what else was the highlight? What was the highlight of the trip?
So coffee was phenomenal. The main goal of the trip was to do this giant hike. It's a volcano called Acatanago. Right, and
Oh,
you're supposed to do this hike. It takes you about like 6 hours to get up there. It's about 12,000 feet of elevation. You get up there, and then they put you in these like little huts and cabins. You camp there overnight, and the whole goal is to be able to do this like sunrise hike the following day. And you do the sunrise hike, and you're able to see like the volcano. It's called I think the volcano is called Fuego, but you'll see it actually erupt. Yeah, no, it's literally called Fuego, right? But it's supposed to be this like sick ass scene. And so like we've been seeing pictures of it online. We're like, oh man, this is gonna be so cool. Like it'll be like a once in a lifetime experience. And bro, we get there and we get puffed. So we get there. So when we hiked up, super cloudy, couldn't see anything beyond like literally 10 feet. And we were like, all right, all good. Like our tour guide was like, we're gonna sleep. We're gonna get up at 4 a.m. as normal, and the clouds will blow over. Like this happens all the time. Bro, we wake up at 4 a.m. We step outside and literally we could not see anything. So we had these like headlamps on, and it was just so foggy, so cloudy. The only thing I could see was just the light shining from my lamp. And so, needless to say, we did not see Fuego. All we could see was the clouds and stuff. So, all the pictures of us up there were just like clouds in the background. But it was actually pretty funny. I was thinking about this. You know how everyone always says like, it's never about the destination. It's always about the journey, man. So I was like, you know what? Overall, it was a really good like experience. I got a ton of solid cross training. Going up the up the mountain and stuff, and then same thing coming down. Learned what it was like to not shower for a day. So that was that was definitely an interesting experience. And I would say even though regardless we didn't get to see the volcano erupting in the background with the sick ass pictures and stuff, I still had a great time. Still a really solid experience, man. So definitely would recommend. I feel like I've got to go back again at some point when it's not puffed.
oh man, couple of things. One, first time not showering, dude. I could help you out with that. Camping and not showering is just the weirdest sensation. But there was a great thing I saw on the internet. It's like, hey, like there was a younger person asking an older person, like, what's more important, right? The journey or the destination? And the older guy was like, the company. And I was like, damn,
Fact.
that's facts right there. And don't worry, you're gonna be able to go back. We're building a fucking school with Moment Education in fucking Guatemala.
Hell yeah.
And they're like, yo, you got to come lay brick. And I was like, yo, I ain't got no engineering degree. I can't lay no brick. I don't know what the structural integrity of this school is gonna be. I can't like be putting these kids in danger. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have to run that back with you.
It's so funny that you mentioned that. So the place that we stayed at when we got back into town, the hotel is called the Good Hotel, and it's actually very similar to like the foundation and stuff that you guys are supporting. So I think it's like for every a certain percentage of whatever it is that you stay goes towards like paying for a week's worth of a child's education there. Because I think like from an education standpoint, it costs I think around like $10 or something like that. So even like a certain percentage goes like a very long way towards making sure these kids get proper education as they are growing up and stuff. So yeah, like education is huge there. Very much in demand. So I think it's awesome that from a donation standpoint, what you guys are doing is awesome. But yeah, let's run it back, man.
Let's run it back, baby. Oh man. Topic today. What's the most valuable thing in your life, Peter?
Time can
Time.
never get enough of it, and it's the one thing that is finite, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Like when you're so young, you just feel like, hey, like I just have so much time the rest of my life. But every single year as I get older, and I'm saying this, but I'm still in reality like fairly young, right? Like well, we're both 31, we're still fairly young. But it's like I feel like, dude, we're almost like more about to be halfway towards our entire lifespan, and I still have like so much I want to be able to do and achieve. But it's really kind of scary when you think about it. It's like you have a certain number of like time and days on this earth, and there's a calendar I remember seeing like online where it literally it draws out your entire lifespan into like these like lines, right? It's like, hey, okay, you have all these all these years left broken down into months, and when you kind of see it and you take it off like that, it's actually very eye-opening. It's like, wow, we really don't have that much time, man. But yeah, time 100% largest currency out there right now.
Peter said, we're both 31. Fun fact, Peter and I have the same exact birthday,
Same exact year.
1993. So, shit like that, just, you can't make it up. But that, all those like calendars and those things like that, it just like brings so much like awareness. There's a guy like Derek, More Plates, More Dates on YouTube. And he's like, I got a clock app that just tells me when I'm going to die. Damn, bro, it's intense.
Countdown timer. Damn it.
But I think one of those things makes it feel real, because it makes you realize, like, what are you doing with your time? Like, and in the beginning, especially with entrepreneurship, it's like when you have your head down, it's hard to like pick it up and like start to analyze the playing field. What you've done, like be proud of some of the shit you've accomplished. Maybe be like, hey, like this might be different how I want to spend my time. So when it comes to time management, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Blocking out entire days or large section of or blocks really of the day. I think one of the very largest mistakes that I made at the very beginning of my entrepreneurial journey was time, quote quote time blocking, but I would time block, just 1 or 2 hours at a time. And so, I'll go through maybe like 1 or 2 hours of client treatments and then block out, like 2 hours for like admin, and then do another 2 hours of like marketing, and then do another 1 hour block of like blogs or emails. And so um time blocking is huge, but you have to do it in a way that's efficient. And so it took me like a while to kind of really like understand and figure this out. And again, like maybe other people's brains can work maybe a little bit differently than mine, but I know the best way for me to function is for me to really dive deep into one specific task, or for like multiple hours at a time. And you know in the time frame where I was treating clients for maybe like 1 or 2 hours and then bouncing into like another task, it would take me at least like 30 minutes to kind of like transition the shift of whatever brain focus that I was in into the other task. So you have that like transition period, so that's something that you have to like take into account for, right? But I would definitely recommend, if able to, block out at least like 3 or 4 hours at a time where you can focus, purely on that one task. And then if, even better, if you can block out a full day, like imagine how much shit you could get done, if you do that. Everything in that one day is just, marketing, or everything in that one day is just, email newsletters. Like how many email newsletters could you batch out in one day of your time? But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for me, is really just, hey, like, how do we effectively block out your time?
Funny you mentioned email newsletters. If you guys are not subscribed to the Go Getters coaching newsletter, it's so fire. I only say that because I write them. But when I write them, right, like when I'm writing them, I don't write it week to week. I write about 4 in advance, and then Christy plugs it all into the CRM. But that's the way to do it, right? It's like when you kind of get into the fucking zone, you want to have the flexibility of being like, I want to stay in this zone. And when you're writing newsletters, it's like there are certain times where I'm like, oh, this shit is hitting. Like, I'm not gonna stop because things are coming, the words and everything is flowing really really well. And then there's gonna be certain times where like it just isn't there for the creative juices side. I think one thing I've picked up recently with like the time management stuff is like giving yourself some grace, like when you don't got it that day, right? Like there's no need to kind of like beat yourself up. There are certain things that require like extremely high levels of like focus. And then there's certain things that you can just do, like, like if you're treating someone that you've been working with for a while and you're really just training them, I could do that on 2 hours of sleep, right? If
Mhm.
I'm evaluating someone, I probably want to have more sleep. So like if I'm just answering emails, I can do that whenever. So it's like there are going to be certain times where you time block and you might just be doing some mindless task because you're not where you want to be that day. And that's okay, right? I was listening to Alex Hormozy podcast and he said the same thing. He's like, there are certain days where I just don't got it. When I'm writing copy, like you gotta be good. And it's okay. Just move on. Like don't force it. Just focus on something else and then free up your time another day. And then maybe that day it'll feel better. So even the highest of the highs, right? Like someone like Alex Hormozy understands that like you just gotta give yourself some grace. Like I think those things are super important.
Yeah. One thing I would love to, touch upon is, especially for you, how do you actually batch out all your social media? I think this is something that a ton of people struggle with whenever they first do get into social media, content creation. They look at your page and they're like, man, like Andy's pumping out like 1 to 2 pieces of content like every single day, super high value. So let's walk people through like how do you actually do this? Are you doing this on a daily basis, right? Like, and or are you kind of all batching this on like a monthly basis? But yeah, what's your overall like creation process that gives you like the best amount of time efficiency as well as value out into the public?
The main one, it's like I used to go into the gym every Sunday and record at least 7 pieces of content for the week. And there'd be some days where I would do 10, 12. So I always have some spillover. But I would always go in on Sundays because like it was kind of a dope day for myself. I would I would chill with Oliver in the morning, have coffee with Christy, and then I would go into the gym, work out myself, get a chicken and steak teriyaki bowl, like enough to put you in a fucking coma. There had to be at least like 12 ounces of protein in there.
Sheesh.
Then I would record and I would go home and I would edit those clips and like I'm good to go. But I think there's got to be like what you're saying. If you show up to shoot one day and you don't have ideas, like you're just gonna be frustrated. So my process is this: it's like I have a brainstorming day where I
Yep.
like write down a bunch of ideas that I want to record. From there, right? Maybe that could be like an hour or two, but like again, like an hour, I think not mixed into something, like let's say you wake up on Monday, you don't ever have Monday patience. You could just time block an hour and write down a bunch of content ideas. That just doesn't work quite as well as if you, let's say on Tuesday, you have an 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. patient, then you have a 10 a.m. Free time and 11 a.m. patient. It's hard to kind of get in the flow because you feel the pressure of like, I got to come up with ideas because something's going to go. So it's like, you only need like an hour or two to come up with ideas. Then like, 4 hours to shoot the content. And when you shoot the content, spend 2 to 3 hours, like 2 hours shooting it, 2 hours editing it. So all of that stuff is good to go. But as you start to understand this flow, how do you make these things better? Like eventually in the future, you're going to hire someone that's going to script everything out for you. Right? So here's the ideas and here's the script. You just got to show up and record. Or here's all the content I recorded, and maybe your time is more valuable than editing it. You're going to hire someone maybe offshore, which is what we do. We have a social media manager now. So all I have to do is spend an hour with each of our staff, record, good. Next, record, good. I don't edit anything, send everything to Jamil. Jamil edits everything, schedules it ahead of time. And now I think we post daily like 8 times.
Love that, man. Yeah.
But there's got to be some sort of flow. And, the only reason why I prioritize it a ton, right? It's because, like, I've talked about this before. It's really hard to host a workshop in New York City to
Yep.
generate leads. A lot of what we do is this word of mouth. one-on-one relationships with people in the industry, content marketing, DM conversations, etc. We got Google Ads and some other things kind of in the mix. But I realized that 80% of our business was coming from social media. So I was like, all right, 10x is easier than 2x. We should
Double
fucking
down on it. Yeah.
double down on the media stuff. So that's what we did.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, we do something very similar as well too for our content creation. We like just like we usually only take about 1 day to get all of our like quarterly content done for our clinic. So we'll basically have our each one of our staff come up with 20 different topics themselves. Hey, like do the research, and a lot of times we'll give them like prompts, right, with kind of like the hooks and stuff. Hey, like these are the 3 top exercises that you should never do for XYZ, something like that. And they just have to come up with stuff. And then from there, 1 day a quarter, we'll have a videographer come in, and then we'll just batch everything out. And from a video standpoint, within 2 hours, and they all take turns going through it. But everyone comes in ready to rock and roll. They're already coming in with their scripts. Everybody's prepared, so it's very, very efficient and fast. And then from there, same thing. We send it out to an editor. They batch it out, and then we just have everything already like saved in drafts for the remainder of the quarter. And that's something we don't have to really worry about at all. But yeah, I think one of the worst things that, and I was very guilty of this as well too in the very beginning. It's like, dude, I'd be like sitting on the shitter, man. I'm like, oh shit, I haven't put in a post for today. Let me pull up something in my camera roll. Let me see what's applicable and see if I can kind of put something together real quick. And sure, it's at least putting out something is better than nothing, but it just goes so much more effectively whenever you are able to like brainstorm ahead of time and plan this effectively. And I think that's really what like time management, time schedule allows you to do, right? It allows you to kind of like prepare for these things ahead of time so that you don't get like kind of caught on your ass. You're like, oh shit, like I haven't done like any kind of marketing in the last like 2 weeks and I'm running low on clients. Like I gotta hurry up and try and figure out a way to set this in. But whereas if you have this already like pre-blocked out, like you have a full day set of marketing, maybe like every 2 weeks or whatever your cadence and schedule is based off of how many clients you need to fill. And it's like, okay, like I don't need to worry because I already have this pre-blocked out ahead of time. And I know whenever I hit this, lever, it's going to be able to generate, X number of new clients and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, the content part about it, it's like what's really cool about it is like pumping content does a lot of things for you. You get really good at creating content, which is a skill in
Yeah.
itself. It's going to transfer public speaking. You pump really good content that becomes things that you can utilize for newsletters. That can be things that you can put into your CRM, right? Like if you create a piece of content talking about, how motion RX health is different from stereotypical clinics, that becomes part of your drip sequence. You can fill like, if you create exercise libraries, all this stuff, you can plug those into your blogs because if you write a blog, it can't just be text. You want some visual assets. So it's like creating a ton of content just makes the other things a little bit more seamless. With that said, it's like if you create enough content, like we reuse stuff all the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like you create this database. Like I probably don't have to create content for 2 years and we'll be able to repeat something that I would still say is valuable. I'm not going to repeat things from the first year because I think it sucks. But like from the past couple of years, we definitely created a lot of stuff that we've repurposed to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that a lot of times we think in our own heads, like, oh, like people, I already talked about this last week. People don't want to see the same thing again. But in reality, like nobody is really like paying that much attention. They probably need to see the same post like 20,000 different times or sorry, 20,000 times of the same thing at different times in order for it to like, actually like register in their brain. And I think I forgot who it was that said this, but it's really just, a lot of times people need to be reminded more so than they need to be taught. And so I think that's something that a lot of people really need to understand. It's like it's okay to talk to a lot of people like, hey, you should actually come into this type of physical therapy because of XYZ difference versus like traditional therapy. Like it's not like, hey, we talk about it once and people are gonna remember. It's like, no, of course not. They're not gonna remember that. Like we probably need to tell them that multiple different times again before it actually like registers in their brain.
No, 100%. And most of it's like if you've ever like saw like a meme on the internet, and then you saw it again, you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that one. That one is good. Or like, you saw like a motivational interview of someone talking. It's like, oh damn, I gotta save this now. Same thing with your content. If your shit's good and it's valuable, like people are gonna be like, oh, thank you for posting it. I completely forgot about this that you shared, like, sometimes even 3 months ago. We talked a little bit about the business side of things, right? Like time blocking for the business, time blocking, and like streamlining things, batching stuff. What are some things that you do in like your day to day life? Because that's probably even more important, right? Like if business is going well, but your day to day, your social side, your partner, etc. Like what are some strategies you have there?
Yeah, so I think for everybody this will vary, right? And it took me maybe like probably at least a year or two to really figure out what was the most amount that I needed, or what are the things that I do need in order to like fill up my cup to make sure that I'm feeling energized, to make sure I'm feeling refreshed. And I know we were, I think, talking a little bit about this before the podcast, but I was telling you, hey, I go to bed every single night at 9 p.m. And then I'll wake up at 5. And for me, like sleep is a very, very, big part of, what makes me be able to give a ton of really good output out towards the day. So for me, it's like, okay, I know I can grind throughout the week as long as I hit these couple different things. So for me, it's like, all right, I need to sleep at least around 7 to 8 hours every single night. I need to at least exercise, whether it's like some sort of aerobic or some sort of, lifting, at least 30 to 45 minutes every single day throughout the week. And then on the weekend, I need to have at least 2 hours of some sort of like longer exercise standpoint, whether it's like playing pickleball for 2 hours, whether it's doing like a long run with some buddies, and it has to be out in the sun. So for whatever reason it is, like being out in the sun and sweating at the same time, luckily I live down here in Florida, so it's like it's very easy to hit both of these things. That just seems to like recharge me, and I'm able to like crank out another 6 to 8 hour work session during the weekend. And then from like a relationship standpoint, I live with my fiance Catherine, so usually it's like, hey, all right, once I get home I need to spend at least like an hour and a half, 2 hours with her. And same thing, like we've communicated with this, like, hey, how much time do we feel like we need from each other in order to make sure both of us feel fulfilled. So we have that an hour and a half to 2 hours every single night. And then right now, we currently have a goal of doing 2 date nights every single month. Right. So a new novel activity that we haven't done before. So yeah, one of the dates that we did was the Guatemala one. Right. So we decided, all right, hey, sick. Both of us never gone to Guatemala. We're going to go ahead and do this. And I think the other one that we did earlier this month was a cooking class at Jack's Cooking Studio. Yeah, we made some like a Korean style breakfast. So now again, like I don't have any kids currently at this moment in my time, in my current place in life, right? But in the future, I probably will, right? That's something that I, am planning on having at some point. And I'm sure like whenever that does occur, my, buckets of like what I need to make sure I feel, satisfied and fulfilled from my personal life will probably change. And so I think everybody, depending on where they are in life, they have these like different, like, I guess like minimum viable like things that fill their cups. And so you just have to be able to figure out like what that is. And so I think maybe like when I first started, my business, I felt like I needed to, take every single weekend off because that was what society told me. I needed to like watch Netflix and just like sit on the couch. But then I slowly understood like actually like this thing doesn't really like charge me up as well as like maybe it does for other people. And very likely for me, that's actually like a pretty good thing, right? Because I can actually, do something more, even more productive. So I think a lot of times it just, you probably have to do some experimenting with yourself to be able to figure out, okay, like what are the things I need to do on a daily and weekly basis to make sure you feel good. I know for me, like meditating doesn't really like I don't really need meditating, right? But for other people, that might be something that they need. But yeah, what about you for you, man? Like what are some things? Because I know you're same thing. Like you're putting out a ton of hours every single week, but it's like how are you able to like balance this on a weekly basis? Like what are the things that fill your cup up?
Yeah, it's gonna sound weird, right? I fucking love grocery shopping. Like
Yeah.
I'm a big like Friday mornings. Like I wake up, I get my run in or a workout in, and then I drive to Wegmans in Brooklyn, and I got my AirPods in, and I'm just listening to like some fucking slow jams, and I'm grocery shopping. And if I do that, man, it makes me super happy. Like one, I love being at Wegmans,
Yeah.
but there's something about like taking your sweet ass time, thinking about like what you're gonna pack next week, what you're gonna cook this weekend, like. And the supermarket on a Friday morning is fucking peaceful. Like
Yeah.
that shit is yours. So that's like one thing I always have in my week. If I don't get it done on Friday, I'll do it like Sunday morning. Same thing. It's like I treat myself to a nice coffee, and I'm like perusing and shit. And it's been like recently, I've like been reflecting a ton during these fucking grocery runs. My patient actually bought me this book this morning because she knows I've been doing like the therapy stuff, crying in H.
Bro, I have seen that before, and it like I really want to read it because I know it touches upon a lot of like the shit that we grew up with as like Asian Americans growing up. But yeah, I have seen that somewhere before, but yeah, let me know how it is.
It was funny because I was fucking crying in H Mart like a couple of weeks ago. I was just like, damn, bro, like I can't. I was just thinking to my younger self, I'm like, damn, because H Mart is where where I grew up. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
we did well for ourselves. Like, good shit, Andy. I'm just crying in H Mart, fucking crying at Wegmans. But no, I had like, I'm fucking listening to like Chance the Rapper, and I'm fucking chilling at Wegmans, and I'm fucking ugly crying. I'm like, yo, life is fucking beautiful, and I'm fucking grabbing these seltzer waters and shit. That's my thing. Like my time, 3 to 4 runs a week, 3 strength training days a week. Like if I can get that, I know that like I'm a better person.
Yeah.
Recently, the sleep, I need at least 7 hours of sleep, so I plan for that. Twice a week, Christy and I will go out to date night. Um, we've been exploring newer things, which has been fun. Like we went to like deeper into Queens, got like Nepalese food, Tibetan food, trying new shit like that. But twice a week, like having these things put in, we haven't actually blatantly said like what do we need in terms of like how much time, right? It's just more so like what is it that we need when we're together. So it's like when we're together, it needs to be like present. It can't be like half-assing it, right? Because like
Yep.
a lot of people will spend time together, be on a couch, and like they're half-assing it. But we try to make it a point, like if we go out, be super present, have really deep conversations, and like it's really enjoyable. And like those are the things I think move the needle forward. It's like, what do you need from your significant other? Now there are things that, from a time management standpoint, that I think are like it's not directly into time management, but it helps you control some of the things from a social perspective. Like one thing I always do, it's like almost every week or every other week, I come home with flowers, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, she loves it, I love doing it, it feels good, so it's like it's a fucking win-win. I feel good to bring you flowers, you enjoy that shit, and there's going to be phases in your life where like you might not be quite as present, but you can still be thinking about somebody, right? Like I might not be here with you after this 10 to 12 hour day at work, but I'm thinking about you. And I think stuff like that allows you to feel more connected to people. Throughout the day, I'll message people like, hey, bro, I was thinking about you. Just want to say that I'm grateful for your friendship and you're an amazing person. I send that message. And I'm weird in that way, but I've had a lot of friends be like, yo, that shit means a lot to me, right? So I think we think of like managing the social side of things as like, oh, I've got to show up to this like event and do all these things and like be everywhere. It's just like, dog, I was going to work today. I thought about you, and that's it. And people are just like, yo, I really, really dig that. But that's kind of like my strategies from like the social side of things, like how I manage it. Like, what do I need myself? Um, what are some things that just on repeat, right? Like 2 date nights, long walks with Oliver, grocery store run, and I'm good. But I
Yeah.
think of it as like managing energy.
100%. And it's really at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's like it's really just open lines of communication, not only just with yourself in terms of, hey, like, what do I need for myself, but also like the people that are close around you, your deep relationships that mean the most to you, communicate with them like, hey, what do you need from me? And how can we make this work so that, we can check that box off. And then also now at the same time, all right, sweet, that gets prioritized within my schedule, and then from there let me fill in all the other things that the business needs in order to move the needle forward.
Yeah, I think in the back of our heads, like there's always, and this is something I struggle with, right? I don't think I actually overcame this until like 2 weeks ago. No, probably like a month. Nah, I overcame that. I actually remember now. Christmas time. Christmas time, we had a couple of things happen in the business, and I was just like, man, like where we're sitting around opening like Christmas gifts, eating breakfast casseroles, and I'm thinking about other like work, and I'm just like, holy shit! Like if I think of it from a movement perspective, I don't know how to utilize low threshold strategies anymore, right? Like I'm just always on, always on, always on. And like, what does life need from me right now? Life doesn't need me to be on. I just gotta be present, open Christmas gifts, be present with Christy's family, and like just fucking enjoy this moment. And what I realized, it's like once you can prove to yourself that like work is always going to be, there's always going to be work to do. You're never, if you're an entrepreneur, there's always things that you can improve on, right? So you're always thinking about that shit. Um, but at the same time, like I don't think it needs to be like this aspect of your life where you feel like completely like overwhelmed. Like sometimes you have time, but you're just not present, so it never feels like you're there.
Yeah.
So like getting to a point where like you just know that like shit is gonna take care of itself, and like you don't need to fix everything right then and there. Like you just got to get to a point where you can separate yourself when you need to.
It's as silly as it sounds. So this was something that the our energy coach Erica, shout out Erica, she had me do maybe probably like 4 months ago. Kind of similar, but same thing with you. I'm always thinking about the future. I'm never really thinking about the present and now. So she literally had me like, all right, block out one day of the week. So for me, it's Friday afternoons, right, after I'm done the clinic. And then I'm going to think to myself and tell myself, what is one thing that I'm proud of myself for doing and achieving this week? Because a lot of times I'm always thinking, all right, like what's in the future? What's in the future? What's in the future? What's in the future? Like, what do I need to do next, 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 next? Like, what do we have upcoming? But in reality, like if you think about it, it's like, hey, like we're doing so much like in the present, and it's like it's a lot of really good stuff. And we almost need to we a lot of times forget to like marinate in the present and be like, okay, sweet, like I'm really pumped about like where I am currently. Like, let me just take a moment and just pause and be like, yo, good shit. Like, I'm proud of you, dog. And that's literally it. And that's something that I've never done before in my past.
Oh,
Like,
dude.
never.
It's super uncomfortable, but I feel like when when you learn how to talk to yourself well, right, you just start to fucking level up. If you watch like high level sports, like you'll see athletes, like especially in high pressure scenarios, like you see them say things to yourself like, you got this, you've worked so hard for this, you're gonna do this, and then boom, they fucking like do the damn thing. And it's the same thing for like entrepreneurship. It's like you should acknowledge the fact that you've like leveled up and like all these good things are happening, because like otherwise you just see it as like it's never enough. It's never enough that the CRM isn't 100% optimized. It's never enough that like you should be writing more blogs. And it's like, bro, chill. The only reason you're doing this, right, is to create some wealth for yourself, right, to have some abundance in your life. But if you keep moving the goalposts and you keep looking at like what's next, what's next, what's next, you're just gonna be stuck. And
Yeah.
that's when time, it almost feels overwhelming with
Yeah.
time.
And like don't get us wrong, guys. Like you should always be looking to improve yourself from where your current situation, but there is like a fine line between like how can we do both, right? Because I know a lot of times it's like we're always just looking to the future, but you can look forward into the future but also appreciate like where are we currently in the present, and then learn to understand and appreciate like where we currently are. So for everyone out there listening, like good shit, like you guys are crushing it. Like just take a moment, pat yourself on the back, tell yourself you're doing a great job, because I know that was something that I never did when I was first starting out. It's crazy. Like I never did that until 5 years in.
Yeah. Dude, I straight up, I was telling one of my friends I said I love you to myself for the first time like last month. It was kind of dope. Like just fucking out of nowhere. Like that's the whole fucking crying in H Mart type shit. But the other thing I think to realize, it's like you have to create a delineation of like who you were and who you're becoming, right? And I think it's hard sometimes being an entrepreneur because you still think of yourself as like this little ass kid that doesn't fucking know shit or doesn't have any idea like what they want to do in life. But eventually you're going to step into a point where it's like, I became an entrepreneur because I want to create this life for myself. And there's probably a couple of things that aren't aligned with, with that, because it requires you to go through change. And like, as you change as a person, you're going to value different things. So it's like, remember that it's okay to, I don't want to say like drop people, right? But it's okay to say no to things that might not necessarily fit the bill anymore. Like, do you really need to pop a bottle at a club with your boys on a Friday, then wake up on Saturday and like lose Saturday and Sunday. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain things where it's just like, I don't want to say you have to grow up. Like I'm all for like going through social things and celebrating. But I think that one of the ways that we can tend to self-sabotage is like you celebrate some wins and you almost like celebrate it too hard in like a reckless way. I'll let you know right now, like I've had a holiday party where, pounded too many shots, face planted out of an Uber. Like the following morning I had to meet with a higher up in Tonal and explain to them why I had a like a big ass smile.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And lessons well learned, man. But yeah, hopefully you guys can, take this and run with it, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that that we made, and that's really the whole point of this podcast. But yeah, man, I think it's so funny, we and I kind of enjoy it, but it's like we start off talking about time management, but then we all ultimately end up talking about some sort of like mindset stuff. So that I think that's great, but yeah, man, let's loop it back into some actionable steps for our listeners out there in terms of time management. I would say, if you guys are, treating a certain number of clients a week, block out that number into certain days, right? So if you're treating, maybe like if you're averaging 10 visits a week, all right, like block out, 1.5 days or 2 days where you're only seeing those clients. I know one of the things that I did at the very beginning is I opened up my schedule for everybody, that can just, come in and they can like book them. Oh, you need a 9 a.m. suite? I got you. Even though like no one else is on for that day, right? I'll open it up for you. So be very strategic. Be very mindful of your own time, your own schedule. Block it out, and then obviously as you grow you can kind of open it up a little bit more. But have one day, if your biggest bottleneck right now is like getting leads in through the door, you don't have any evals, like you should probably be blocking out 2 full days for marketing and like lead generation strategies, whether it's batching out stuff for content, or going through your DMs and reaching out to people that interact with your stuff, or going out and setting up events, like whatever your main bottleneck is, like that should be your main focus. So like to give you guys some context, like our currently in my own business at Motion RX, like our main bottleneck right now is increasing our overall like front end staff for SDRs. And so getting people, our appointment setters, for booking the initial valuations. We have a ton of leads coming in, but we just don't have enough people to, call these leads ahead of time and get them in on our schedule. So all of my entire time that's not really like focused on like client care or any of the back end stuff is towards like sourcing and hiring and interviewing and finding the right candidate to fill them into this current position. So whatever your guys like main bottleneck is, like that should be your main focus, and set out like full days for that. So I think as like a PT, you really kind of have maybe like 4 different like topics, or different modes that your brain is. You got your clinical hat mode, where you're treating clients and doing initial evaluations. And then you've got your marketing hat, right, where you're doing things for getting clients in the future. And then you also have like a systems or back end administrative day, where you're building out the SOPs, right, for future hires, or creating different automations and drips within your back end. But really, those are like the 3 like main topics that I can think of. I don't know if you have anything else to add to Sandy, that like PTs that they should really try and block off their days into to make it as productive as possible.
no, I think all of those things, like you covered, like the main 4 hats that you'll typically wear. Other things to think about. It's like one thing I always put on is like a creative hat, right? It's like just
Yeah.
creating like miscellaneous like graphics and stuff like that for moment. But as you start to do this, it's like you start to figure out like who you are as a person, right? Like some people cannot stay late at the clinic, so it's like black out your time. So it's like all the mornings are there. To give you something tangible, it's like right now, it's like I'm going to be in on Tuesdays for the whole day. Like I'm just committed Tuesdays the whole day. Wednesdays and Thursdays are now going to be from like 8 to 1, and that's it. And the key here is like when you onboard someone, one thing that is really tough is when you start to follow up with people, message, text, etc. That takes up so much fucking time. So when you eventually, have a front desk person, it's like, hey, you could put them on any of these days, you're good to go, right? Otherwise, like if you don't have set times, sometimes you might get something scheduled, then you tell your admin like, oh, I can't actually have something there. It's like have dedicated clinical time so people know that they can always book there. Maybe you can send them a link and it's super easy. Otherwise, you just end up having more back and forth. So like if you don't have a structured calendar, I would say that's the lowest hanging fruit. And then from there, when you look at the calendar, it's like, how do I want my week to look like? If I can repeat this week every single week, will I be okay? And if it's not, it's like, what's the thing that has to change?
Yeah. I think one thing that everybody should do at least once a quarter is to audit like the tasks they are currently doing. So, there's multiple different, different apps out there. The very basic thing that you can do is just like, all right, every 30 minutes, like write down on a notepad, what are the current tasks that I'm doing and literally write it out. One of the apps that I currently use is something called Timular. And, it's just, it'll literally audit like, hey, what are my current tasks I'm doing? How long am I doing it for? And then you can really start to see, okay, what are some like very low hanging fruits that I'm like doing that I could probably outsource to people. But really, it's just like from like whatever is taking up the largest amount of time, that should be like what you're looking to, that should be your next hire. So if you're treating like, 35 hours a week, all right, and you've got like 20 hours of like marketing and back end admin stuff, all right, 35 is your most like repeatable task. Okay, cool. That probably gives you an insight. All right. First hire should probably be another staff PT to be able to help out with some of the fulfillment and clinical care. So yeah, once a week, guys, or sorry, not once a week, once a quarter, audit your task, and then you'd be surprised that I know the very first time I did this, dude, I was like shocked at how much like wasteful time that I had throughout the day. That were just like little 10 to 15 minutes that I wasn't doing shit. And so it's very eye opening as well too. So audit your time. That way you understand, okay, what should be the focus. How do you block it off efficiently moving forward?
Yeah. And then the last thing I think for myself, it's like getting a Pomodoro timer. Sounds super corny, but you fucking twist a little tomato. You set the thing for like 45 minutes and you're just like, I'm locking in for 45 minutes. And it's this weird, like learned behavior, right? It's like when I do this, then I do this. Done. It's not I do this and then I browse TikTok. It's like start this habit stack, and something like a Pomodoro timer keeps you honest, because like honestly, like you're gonna need to do like 45 minutes of something, 30 to 45 minutes of something, get up, drink water, stretch a little bit, lock back in 30 to 45 minutes of something, right? So it's like, let's say it's a 4 hour block of like working on like the ops or the back end. You're not going to sit for 4 hours straight. You're going to do like 30 to 40 minutes of that. Give yourself like 5 minutes, 30, 40 minutes of that. Give yourself 5 minutes. So having the timer just keeps you honest, because once you know it's on, it should be intentional. It's very easy to slip and fucking watch pimple popping videos on TikTok.
We've all been down that rabbit hole before.
Yeah. Anything else for you, Peter?
I think that's it, man. Yeah, those are, my main action items that I currently still do to this day. So hopefully you guys, take just one or two action items from this and rock and run with it, man.
Also, I forgot one thing, man. Energy vampires.
Hmm.
Like that's another thing, right? If you look in your calendar and there's something is like an energy vampire, maybe it's a person, maybe it's not even a client, right? If you have something in your calendar that you know when it's on your calendar just does not excite you, maybe it's an activity, you got to offload it if it's important. If it's not important, just throw that shit out. And sometimes there are patients on your calendar where it's like it makes the rest of the day feel horrible.
Yeah.
You might got to break up with the patient, like straight up. It's just anyone that sucks your energy and doesn't allow you to show up well for everyone else in your life. Gotta say peace.
Yeah. Time and energy. Those are your two biggest things you got to protect. Two of the most valuable things.
All right, squad. So listen. We PR'd every single week. We're PRing. We got 9 5-star reviews. I think 2 episodes ago we
Let's
tried,
go.
but it is what it is. You know,
Get us to that double digit 5-star, fam.
no. Once we get to 10, we're gonna be looking at the 100. But yo, our people have been popping off. We've been doing extremely well with the go getters. And if you want to join the winners, because one of the things we always say is WAW, we always win. Holla at your boy. DM us Go Getters Coaching on Instagram and just say, let's get it. And that's it. That's enough. That's like the battle cry. That is the wolf howling. That is the bat signal. Whenever you say let's get it, like Peter comes and appears in a corner and says, let's get it, baby. Let's scale this business. Let's launch this business.
Dog, we gotta get some merch like that, man. Just let's get it.
The
That'd be
merch,
fire.
yo, we are launching Moment PTP merch soon. My boy Ben has got everything automated. Go Getters merch. I don't know if we can give it to everybody. Man, you got to do some stuff to
Gotta
earn
be a
that.
go getter.
You got to be a go getter, but you can't just, it's not like, oh, I signed up and you get it. No, you got to like put yourself in some uncomfortable situation. You got to get some exclusive stuff. But Guys, appreciate you for tuning in. We always kind of keep going back and forth, whatever kind of topic we talk about, there's mindset because there is a certain type of mindset you got to have as you adopt something new, do something uncomfortable outside of your comfort zone, whether it's time management, sales, etc. Like this, the same person you are, the way that you think of things is just not enough. So you got to level up the mindset, and then from there, we can start to put in some new strategies and software.
Let's get it.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Let's get it. You already know your boys. Peter got the balloons with the deuces
Meow,
up.
meow, meow.
See y'all next week.